So, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit how you got started in how you got started in boxing, how you got introduced, and where and how that's all grew.
Um, I got started in boxing because I had nothing to do after. Like I wasn't.
Can you hear?
He's a little
Can you hear
low,
me?
a little bit low,
Okay,
but I can hear him. Yeah,
you can hear me. Okay, I got started in
There
that's
you
boxing.
go.
better.
Okay, I got started in boxing because I had nothing to do. I was graduated high school. I didn't really have any plans as far as like college. I mean, I was gonna go to the University of Chicago, but tuition was a lot of money. Um, people were telling me, "Oh, join the army, do this," because I was going to box in the army team, and I thought about that at 18 years old. But I just got into fighting because it was like my family fought, my dad, fought, my uncles fought, but they wasn't boxers, So it was like a history of that in us, and I just took a positive route and said, you know what, I'm gonna dedicate to being all I could be in the sport.
Right.
And
Was
boxing
your
sort
family
of found
was
me.
your family background more just growing up tough type of fighters, or were they
Yeah,
just kind of just street scraps wherever they could find one, and sometimes the
yeah,
fight would find them?
yeah, a little bit of both of
Uh,
that.
well, so you kind of started to see how that maybe wasn't leading anywhere, so you went more to like let me find some structure in this. Let me put it a
Right,
little more to good use, right?
right, exactly. I actually, the funny thing is, when I was younger, I would say in high school, maybe sophomore year, I was getting into a lot of fights in school, and I remember one particular incident where I got into a fight after school, and a police officer stopped it, took us both to the principal's office, the whole spiel. And the police officer said, "Hey, I'm taking you to the gym." And so he took me to the Chris Gatlin Center, which is a gym out where I grew up in Jersey. And he took me there, and it was a boxing gym in there. And ever since then, it just planted a seed that this is what you're gonna do one day. So,
Right. So it was a way to give you something to do every day. It was a way to release some of that whatever anger you were having that caused you to get into fights. And it was kind of as Travis said, it's more of a positive outlet for your energy than what maybe your parent, your father and uncles and other guys in the neighborhood did in fighting on the street corners. So
Well, and if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it when you're allowed to do it,
right,
right? Like
exactly.
so I grew up playing lacrosse, and my coach in high school. So I got all the way, I played all youth, got all up to high school. And first day of meeting this new coach, one of my favorite quotes of anyone who's ever taught me, he just goes, look at this big stick, this 6 foot long metal stick. And he just slaps one of the kid's arms with it. And the kid's got pads on and stuff. He slaps kid's arm with it, and he goes, if you step 6 feet off the field into that parking lot and you do that, you get arrested for assault with a weapon, with a deadly weapon. And he goes, for some reason inside these lines, within the guidelines of the rules, you can hit people. So why not do it, right? Why not
Exactly.
focus and channel yourself here when they let you do it?
yeah,
So and that was what I always loved. That's what I always try to teach my kids. It's like, if you're allowed to hit people, as long as you're following the rules, freaking hit them, man. Right? Go get them.
Yeah.
You're allowed to. Just don't break the rules. As long as you don't break the rules, right? Stay in the guidelines, but
Yep,
bring it.
yep.
so you started you got involved from there, and that was when you were living in Jersey, right? And so
Yes,
then you kind of came up and you were in the amateur ranks, had a bunch of amateur fights, and
yes.
then
Uh,
yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I fought in the amateurs. I had right after um I moved from my mother's house in New Jersey. I went to my father's house in Harlem, New York City. And then at the time in New York City, I say around 2008, 2009, boxing was like very sought out after in New York City. Like, everybody came to New York City. I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
everybody came to New York City for boxing, and I was in the mix. Somehow I just got dropped off in the mix of all
Yeah.
that. So I grew up, I had a couple amateur fights. I had about 30 before I turned professional. Most guys have 200, but I was fighting guys with like 100 fights, so it didn't matter to me. But yeah, the amateurs in New York City, and I really made a name for myself in the gyms of
Yeah.
New York City. And
And then
I
the
never
next step
probably,
is turning pro.
yes, that would be that was the next step. Um, I made a name for myself in the gyms by always being on time, always being there when cause I have a rule. I told myself when I started this, I said, listen, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it every day because you never know who's gonna come in the boxing gym. One day you may have, the regular crew that's there. Another day you may have a world champion that's there, and if you missing days, you're gonna miss the days that the world champion was there, and he can give you some, he can teach you something. You can. So I was always a sponge, um, learning boxing. I was always a sponge. I was
Yeah,
never
right.
somebody that thought I knew everything.
We say success leaves clues. So you go and find the people who have success and find out what they're doing, and adapt something for yourself. That's a great mindset to have.
Yep.
When did you said you were fighting a lot of guys with more experience? Was there any sort of transition to being like to understanding that maybe you're an amateur, and then when you start to fight those guys, like understanding that you really belonged at that level? Was there a learning curve with that, or were you just kind of once you get punching, it doesn't matter who's in front of you?
Yeah, it was a different learning. It was a learning curve because a lot of fighters find themselves frustrated. Oh, why am I not doing this? But you gotta understand, he's a professional. I mean, at the time, this is me, amateur Mike talking. Well, at the time, he's a professional. Like you gotta, just do what you're told. If it doesn't work out for you, hey, you'll get him again. And if you don't get him again, then it's a lesson learned.
Right.
But yeah, it's a learning curve definitely when boxing, absolutely. But you gotta keep going, keep training, keep fighting. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, do something every day. Sure. So you were living in New York then. Now you turned pro, and you had what, a handful of pro fights, right? And you did pretty well for yourself.
Yeah, I was my pro debut. I was actually matched up with a guy that beat somebody that beat me in the amateurs. So it was I don't want to say it was, but it was like it was setting me up for failure in a way. But
Yeah.
I didn't look at it like that because I looked at it like it was my moment, and I'm going to take advantage of it, and I did. I stopped him in the third round. It was a 4-round fight. He cut me and stopped me, and I stopped him in the third round, my pro debut, and
Nice.
then next thing I know, I went from this nobody, and then I was ranked number 39 in the country, and so I was like, oh wow, that's great, so it was cool.
So tell us a little bit about how that works too, because I don't think a lot of people, understand. I mean, people who are not in the boxing world, who watch boxing, they know the WBO, or the big organizations, and we see the top fighters on television. That's what we see. But for lack of a better word, there's a whole minor league system, right? There's
Oh yeah.
there's other other levels underneath that where you have to compete and make your way through in order to get to the big boy money, and the big boy recognition.
Yep.
So how does that work? What kind of governing bodies are out there? Or how's that set up?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's you have a lot, but like I wouldn't know because I should know because I'm a fighter, but I wouldn't know because I'm so focused on the craft
Right,
of
the management team handles
boxing.
that.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, yeah, 'cause I know,
I
because
would.
at work, doing some work with you, I've kind of learned a little bit about the structure of how it's set up. And so it's interesting to me. I want to learn more about how that actually works. But I will. I'll learn that. So you had a few fights, and then what was the outcome of that? Because I know there was some time that you had taken off between your last competition and then your most recent competition. So what was what's the story behind that? You were fighting, you were competing, you were doing well. What made you kind of have that gap in your fights?
Bad management.
Bad management.
Horrible management. That's the one thing I would tell kids, like, and I was on my own. So it wasn't like, I had anybody over me, saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. You should, I was making my own decisions at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And, horrible management will stop your career just as bad as an injury,
Okay.
So you have to really take into consideration who you deal with as far as, the business side, because when I turned pro, I got to understand it that, okay, yeah, you love boxing, but now that you're a professional, this is boxing business. And, boxing business is like, I didn't sign up for boxing business. I signed up for boxing. I signed up to fight. But
right.
The business side of it, I didn't sign up for. But bad management was really the reason why they didn't have my best interest.
Right.
So I was just like, okay, and then I moved when I came out here to Connecticut, I was working 2 jobs at the time. I met my trainer. I was just met Dave, so I didn't really know him. He didn't really know me. So it was actually, perfect timing that I took that time off, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't enjoy it, but I had to work and things like that. So
And you never, from what you told me earlier when we spoke, you never really got out of boxing. You just were not in matchups and competitive fighting. You were still in the gym. You were still working out. You were still teaching other kids, and so that passion and love for boxing is always that never left. It's the business part that kind of just you didn't want any part of it, and now you have people that you work with who handle that for you, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so trust has to be a big issue for, with you guys now, right? You want to make sure the people you're with you can trust completely and feel confident.
Absolutely.
So as you said, you can take your mind off of that. You can focus on the things that you need to do to get ready.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so how long have you, and then, so you started training with the crew that you're with now, Dave and Benny and those guys. And how long ago was it earmarked that you're going to have the fight that you just had on last Saturday? Like how much time did you have before when they signed the contract to actually fighting?
Well, I signed the contract the day my dad passed away on the 17th.
Yeah, and again,
the contract.
Our condolences for that loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just know, but I make it like it's bittersweet. It really is. It's bittersweet. Like a lot of things change when, like on the 2nd, I just got, another good thing happened to me. Like I got a home, and my grandmother passes away on January 2nd. Then, so it's like it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
And like I got the fight contract, but my dad passes away. So it was dealing with that, but I knew that they wanted me to push forward and follow my dreams, because that's something my dad told me since I was a kid. Something my grandmother told me since I was a kid. Follow your dreams, do what you want. I mean, not do what you want, but follow your dreams, your aspirations, what gets you up in the morning. Follow
Absolutely.
that. And I did.
And I think people, the bittersweet thing, I think we get that. You can, another way to look at it, that's life, right? I mean, life is something good happens, something bad might happen, something bad might happen, something bad might happen, and something good happens. And it's, as I always talk to my athletes, it's, it's an old Urban Meyer thing. It's E plus R equals O, right? Event, which we can't control, plus our response then equals the outcome, right? So it's how we respond that makes the outcome. And, you've always, you're showing us now, you've taken that response as, yeah, of course I'm sad. Yeah, of course I'm missing my dad or my grandma, but my response has got to be positive. I've got to keep moving forward. To dwell on the negative gets nobody anything, right? So that's awesome outlook.
My mother has a saying. She says, "Roll with the punches." That's what you gotta do. You gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Time one of those hardships came up, the probably best reaction would just be to dive into training, right? And focus your mindset on something else. Are there any other, besides just knowing you had to go to the gym every day, were there any other strategies or type of mental tactics that you were using to distract yourself, or just not even to distract yourself, but just to overcome those things? Like, were there any simple little, messages you would tell yourself, something maybe you would write on the wall, anything little that, someone like a listener could learn from besides just, make it to the gym on time?
A lot of people have different things. My thing was listening to music. I listen to music a lot, music that I liked. I'm not saying that, you should listen to any and everything, but I listen to music to zone me out so I could just focus in on the task. And then when I signed the contract to fight, that's all I thought about, because I just thought about how good I wanted to look, and I want to perform very well. So that was just my mental state, and music helped a lot. I channeled in and just focused on what the objective. The objective was to win, come out with the win, and that's what I focused on. Really.
Who are some of your favorite musicians? Give us like your top 5.
There's a lot of new guys. I like this guy. His name is Don Tolliver. I like him. The Weeknd. I like Frank Sinatra. I listen to Frank Sinatra when I'm driving sometimes. I like a lot of rap music, but not all rap music, because a lot of it ain't a lot of it ain't as good as it used to be. But I listen to a lot of stuff. It's just what whenever I'm in the mood to. Like I don't limit myself to, just one genre of music. But I listen to whatever feels good, and
yeah,
gets me going.
Well, you certainly have range when you hit three rappers and then you just hit Frank Sinatra. That certainly gives a broad spectrum. And I'm the same way, Frank is he's so uplifting and calming at the same time. Right. When you listen to like a Frank Sinatra song, it's not always motivating, but it's wholehearted, but also a baseline calm at the same time. It's such an interesting dynamic. It's great for before an event and after an event. It's always good. It used to be one of our win songs when I was in college.
Yeah. So Mike, take us up a little bit, because I think, having spoken to you in the past, I think this camp that you went through was a little bit different than the ones you had in the past. And, that probably helped you in your physical, right? Whether it's your skills or your conditioning, whatever. But I think it also helped you, kind of, like you said, relax and just enjoy the process of getting ready for the fight and knowing that you had good people around you. So just talk about how that camp went and, things you might have done differently or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. This camp was excellent. Well, first I had to get ready for an 8-round fight, and I had to be at work at 7 a.m. in the morning, on time every morning. So, I was doing that as well, and then, go home and relax for about an hour or two, then go and get ready to go to real work, go to boxing, condition, go to camp or whatever. But what really helped me was you, Gary. You helped me a lot with the mental aspect of fighting, because that's so important. That's so important. The mental game of because growing up, everybody used to tell me, "Oh, fighting is 90% mental, 10% physical." I never really understood it because all you're doing is getting, you're doing physical.
Right.
It's a physical sport, but it is very mental. And if your mental's not right, you're not gonna be right. You're gonna be off. And I had a problem growing up, you know, with attention, staying focused to things and everything else had my attention. But for some reason, when it came to boxing, I could always just zone in. Maybe because it's something that I wanted to do. I don't know, but
Likely, yeah.
yeah, but the attention that I got from this camp, everybody was like, "Yeah, Mike, you're doing this right." The conditioning that I did, I had to prepare because it wasn't more or less teaching me how to fight.
Right.
You didn't have to teach me how to fight. I just needed to be in shape for the fight. Right. And physical shape and mental shape. I needed to be mentally in shape too, because that's just as important as being physically in shape.
Yeah, the staying, being able to have the conditioning for 8 rounds and to be able to stay focused completely for 8 rounds, regardless of what was going around you, is obviously something we worked on. And as you said earlier in the podcast, you are a sponge. You do absorb it and you take it on. And so, we saw success, and at the end of that 8 rounds of a dominating fight, you got to raise your hand and wrap that New England title around your waist. And if I'm correct, you're the only person from Connecticut fighter who ever do that, right? To bring home that title, correct?
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's awesome.
I believe that's true. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that you're the only one from Connecticut to bring home that title.
Wow.
You can check with Dave and the guys.
Breaking news.
But
let's fact check that before we publish this.
Yeah. Hey, I just said from what I know, and I don't know a lot about boxing, but you can check with Dave and those guys. AJ, I'm sure they would know a little bit more on the history of that. But and then again, having kind of worked with you, I saw the camp, and I saw the work that you put in from a conditioning standpoint too. And even in the short time you and I worked together, I saw your body transform, and you could see you have more energy every time you were in there. Every time you sparred, you got more energy. So, I think one of the things that you said a few minutes ago, which I just drew a blank on, so I have to edit this part out because I just drew a blank on what it was. But yeah, you have another question, Trav? Because I just drew a blank.
So I was curious about when you're in camp, because you were talking about how you learned about the mental game. Yeah. How do you analyze your film or like your style to focus on or to identify maybe certain weaknesses in your game or strengths as relating to your opponent? Because we have a lot of guys. We coach a lot of guys. Wrestling is a one-on-one sport. Most sports, you're going to review film. How do you break it down if you have any specifics? And then how are you able to stay honest with yourself and be vulnerable with yourself to find those things that you need to work on?
That's a great question. What happens is like, as soon as the fight happens, I don't even look at the tape, because the first thing I see, actually, I don't look at my own fight until like at least a couple of days, because the first thing I see as soon as I look at the fight, if I do that, I look at all my mistakes. I'm like, I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing this right. And everybody's telling me, no, you did a great job. You did it. No. I'm hard on myself.
You want to give yourself at least a day or two to enjoy the win, but before you start getting critical. But so once you do analyze that, or once you do look at it, I guess how easy is it for you to see those and recognize those, and then also how do you stay positive in that way? So how do you not bombard yourself with too much negative?
Well, I say, hey, I won the fight, but it's still things that I want to work on. It's not so much negative, because I wouldn't say it was negative, because in a way it's positive, because I'm working on it. You know, I get a chance to work on it. So any mistakes, I see the mistakes first, and I say, okay, I have to work on this. I have to work on that. But then, like a day or two later, when I look at the fight, I'm like, oh wow, I actually did all this. Oh, okay, yeah,
Right.
all right. But I still have to work on certain things. But I'm very hard on myself. That's why. But in a way, you have to be, because that's the only way you could give yourself, 100% of yourself. So
Yeah, and I think Mike, not striving for perfection, but always striving for improvement
right.
gives you a lot of freedom. It gives you the freedom to
Yes.
always say, whether I win in one round, whether in 8 rounds, or whether I lost, my next time out, the next time I get in the gym, my goal is to improve, right? Because it's about the process more than it is the outcome. And when you have that mindset, it makes, even though that was a goal of yours to win this title, that goal is really just a part of the process. It's just another stepping stone and part of the process, because it's not
Exactly.
the end, right? Whether you win or lose, it's not the end. So
Exactly.
the question I was going to ask you before, the comment I was going to make before, you had talked about having to get up at 7:30 in the morning or be at work at 7:30 in the morning. You've got other responsibilities. You've got a house, you got some, responsibilities around the house. You have to put in a full camp to get ready for this. Um, we often hear people when we're coaching them, whether we're doing physical coaching, mental coaching, I don't have enough time. I don't, I'm too busy. So, who could have been busier than you, and you got it done. So talk just a little bit about, about being people, that excuse of people being busy.
That's exactly what it is.
Bracket it out and tell yourself that you do have enough time.
Well, it's organization. My manager, AJ Galante, he's very organized. Like if you go into the gym, Coach Tiger, he came and we had a meeting in his office the first time we met. You go into his office, you see everything is very organized. So what I do is I have a calendar that I could, one of those wipe off calendars. You can clean, change each month, or write what you need to write. Um, I write down what I'm doing that day. Because you have to be organized if you got a goal. If you got a goal, you have to have some sort of organization, some sort of system to go by, because if you want to meet your goal. And that's what I started doing. I just started writing everything down on my calendar, everything I'm doing that day. Okay, I got to go to work. Right after work, I'll do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then I'll go to the gym, or spar that day, or run that day. So I just made it a point, because we all have the same 24 hours. We all have it. It's nothing different. We all have the same 24 hours. It's just about how you use the 20, an hour, each
How you
hour.
use it.
I've always found how incredible it is to, when you really list it all out, you actually start to realize how much extra time you have sometimes.
Right.
Like when you list it out, you're like, all right, well, that'll only take me an hour and a half. And then I gotta do this, and then you're like, wait, but why am I done by 5 o'clock? Or like, why am I done at 3 o'clock? It's like, maybe I can have an hour in here or an hour here. And like, recently, especially during quarantine and everything, I'm making lists of stuff to do. And I'm like, yo, this is going to be my whole day. And all of a sudden it's 3 hours later, I'm 80% done with the list. Took me 3 hours. When you actually write it out and you just put it in front of you and just one after the other, just wipe it off, it starts to seem not as big of a task, right? It always seems larger in your head until it's right there reading it, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And there's a saying, structure is freedom. And it's true. The more structure you have, the more you build in what you need to do for yourself, the more free time that you can find in there. And, there's 10,080 minutes in a week, right? 10,080 minutes in a week. When you start to break down what you have to do on a daily basis and a weekly basis, there is time. So as Mike said, it's only an excuse when you say I don't have time to do something. If you can work a full-time job and you can train for a heavyweight title fight, you can find time to do whatever it is that is on your list. So don't make that an excuse. I think that's a good message. So Mike, what's going on? What's next for you? And it's probably been a couple of days. We just taken some downtime and reorganizing. How do you do that? Do you get with your team and figure out what's next and build a camp? Or how does it work?
Well, yeah, we get together. We take a week off. I told him I didn't want to take a week off, but I told him I didn't want to take a week off, but we took a week off. And we go back in the gym and we talk about the title defense.
Yeah.
And getting it moving, getting it going again.
So now you go from being a hunter to the hunted, right? So now you got the target on your back and people are calling you out. Because the way that, and tell us audience a little about this, but the way that you were able to get that fight is you basically called the champ out, right? You called your opponent out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't call him out.
But you asked for that fight. You said, "Hey, I want a shot at the title," right?
Yeah. I said, I'll take the fight. Yeah, no problem. And they offered me the fight. I said, absolutely, I'll take it, and that was it.
Would like to do next? Like, is there anything that's in your radar right now, or are you just kind of let me know who you want me to fight and I'll fight anybody?
Yeah, that's the kind of person I am. It's not, because I'm like in the amateurs, you didn't pick and choose who you wanted to fight. You just went in there and fight. You went in there and fought. So if you had 5 fights and the guy had 100 fights, that's just it. Right. So I'm old school like that, but I just like to fight, But at the end of the day, it's a learning experience. If you lose, it's a great experience when you win. But yeah, it's not. I don't have really anyone in my radar. It's just whatever comes to me. Let's just get it on.
And that's part of what your management team does for you as well, right? They'll kind of figure out who the opponent should be. They'll do all that. You just got to get ready for whoever it is. And as we've talked about a bunch of times, again, we talked about even today, it's the process, right? So you're going to get back in the gym and you're going to start working, and somewhere along the way, they're going to tell you who to fight, and you're going to go, okay. And there may be a time when you do look at a little bit of his film or whatever, just to kind of know it. But the most important thing is you're focusing on you, right? It's about your improvement. And because we talk about controlling the controllables all the time. You can't control the other fighter. You can't control if he has 100 wins or if he has 10 wins or if he's bigger than you or he's slower than you. You can't control it. You can only control what you can do.
Exactly.
So Mike, you were saying that you're ready that you didn't really want to take any time off. How quickly is your recovery and your reload process to want to fight again? Like, are you hoping to fight in 3 months, or are you just hoping to get back in the gym and train? What is your recovery and restart button look like?
Yeah, I'm just wanting to get back in the gym to train, because that's where everything comes together. So me being in the gym is kind of like my happy place as far as boxing is concerned. The fight, what people gotta understand is the fight is just a moment. It's a moment. Anytime any athlete get into any sport, it's a moment, or an event. It's a moment. It's like it all boils down to what you are going to do at that moment. We could sit there and talk about what you did after, but what's important is realizing that you're in the moment, being in the moment, and executing the game plan in the moment at the right time. And that's basically what fighting is. I mean, not fighting, but sports in general for me.
And we talk about it all the time, right? We don't rise to the occasion. We fall to our level of training. I mean, that's the reality. We've heard that when we were kids. We always heard, "Oh, he's rising to the occasion." No, he's falling to his level of training. He just, whether it's Kobe or it's Michael or it's Tom Brady, their level of training, their level is higher than yours, and that's why when they fall their level of training, they're going to beat you, right? It doesn't make a difference, and that's the thing. So You know, when you rely on emotion to get you over, even a guy like Ray Lewis, who was all emotion. He was emotion, but his level of training, every single day, his level of focus into what his craft was there. Because if he came out with all that dance and screaming, ripping his shirt open, but he didn't have the training, he was going to be another player who just made a lot of noise. But because he was Ray Lewis, he was Ray Lewis, you know. So that's awesome, Mike. So I have one more question for you about goals, right? So obviously, you know, the fight that you had Saturday night, the title fight, was a goal for you, and now that's been achieved, and you can kind of scratch that off. Do you have a process now where you go back and now kind of set another goal, like, you know, figure out like, okay, you know, here's my next thing I want to shoot for. You know, do you have another goal that you set, whether it's, you know, win 5 more fights in New England, or it's, you know, make it to the next level, or whatever it is? Do you have a process for doing that?
My goal is to, I don't have a process, you know, I just write on my calendar. I just simplify it. You know, I just keep it simple. Um, but my goal is to just be better each and every time and put on a good show each and every time. Because I mean, boxing reality, it could be your last night in the ring, and it could be, you know, the start of a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But my goal is to, you know, put on a show each and every time I'm out there on the in the ring. That's just my thing. Like that's my goal. You know, that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And as you said, and keep improving, right? Because we can always improve, and in so many different areas. You know, we can get a little bit more refined with our diet, right? So we can improve that. We can get a little better with our cardio, so we can improve that. You know, we can work on our skills. We can work on our mental technique. So there's so many ways that we can improve. That's the quest. The quest is just ongoing. It's ongoing room for improvement. That's what everybody's journey really should be. And I think when you have that, then you really can't lose. And I think you said a little while ago, Mike, when it's losing, I'm learning, and when I'm winning, I'm learning. So I'm learning no matter what.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Good quote.
Absolutely.
that's all.
Mike, we ask everyone towards the end of the interview, what's the most interesting or unique thing that someone would find in your backpack? Like everyone's got that thing that like they always carry with them. Maybe it's to the gym, maybe it's to the match, whatever meet. What's like something that's unique to you that most people other people probably wouldn't have?
My massager.
Okay,
My
was it like a foam
Theragun.
roller?
No, it's a Theragun. It's called Theragun massager. I always keep it on.
The little drill gun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always keep it on me. That thing works. That thing works magic.
With
Like
the shoulder, lot of
yeah.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. After work, after training, whew, that thing is amazing.
That's a good one. We haven't heard that one yet. We heard what was it, knee massagers once.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a volleyball chick had knee massagers. She would strap onto her knees. Well, we haven't heard the Theragun yet.
No.
Yeah. That's
So
the best
I
thing
guess
I got.
my last question for you, Mike, is if and you do this already. You work with a lot of young kids in the gym. You know, you help train them. If you had to give them one piece of advice that would allow them to, you know, excel in their sport, or excel just to be getting better, to constantly improve, like what would be the one piece of advice you can give them?
Stay in the gym and prepare for your moment. Just prepare for it. Be as prepared as possible. Be as prepared, because a lot of times, you know, guys go into the fights and they lose fights because they're not prepared. They didn't mentally prepare themselves. They didn't, you know, they're just going with the flow. But you have to fall into your training, like you said, and you know, show your. I don't want to say worth, but show your skill, show your talent, show what you've been working on. You
Yeah.
know, um, that's what I would tell them. Prepare for your moment, and you know, stay in the gym. And staying in the gym is how you prepare for your moment.
Yeah, we had a guy on a while ago, and it's one of my favorite interviews actually. This guy's an ultra runner. He runs the 100-mile races, all that. And the one thing he said was, I never have to tell you what I want out of life, right? Because if you put a camera on me and you followed me around, you would know by everything that I do, you would know that I want to be a great runner. So that's kind of the same thing you're saying. If I put a camera on Mike, the thing I would know by the end of a week is that he wants to be a great boxer because he's in the gym, he's doing the mind stuff, he's doing the conditioning. So you don't have to, and this is a lesson for young kids too. You don't have to talk so much, right? If you're doing it, everybody's going to know what you're doing. Same thing with our wrestlers. When we see those guys always putting in the work, we know they want to be great wrestlers. They don't want to tell me that. I can see it in the things you do. So that's pretty cool. That's a great message for the kids.
Absolutely.
You can have a wealth of knowledge, wealth of skill, whatever, right? Money talks, wealth whispers. You don't need to be loud about it. Speak softly, and carry a big stick.
That's it. That's it.
So I know you're going to get back in the gym real soon, and and there'll be some fight at the end of that. At the end of that little time period, you're going to have something to focus on, which would be great. And so people on this who listen to this call, tell us a little bit how we can how we can follow you, whether it's social media or whatever, so we can kind of be support Mike, Fly Mike.
My social media handle on Instagram is flymikemarshall, FLYMIKE Marshall MARSHALL. It's the same thing on Facebook, Fly Mike Marshall. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll drop that.
Excellent.
We'll drop that in the show notes so people can follow you. Social media obviously is a big way to just get connected with everybody, and you see your sponsors and all that stuff on there too. So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
All right, Mike. Well, we thank you for coming on with us today. We appreciate you, and I know you and I'll be working together continually, but we'll as a group we'll follow you as well, and we wish you nothing but great success.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I got to find out if that first champion
in Connecticut. Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. I hope I'm not, but I thought that someone in your camp had mentioned that to me.
I think AJ said it. I think it is true. It's the first one in the world. But I need to be 100%.
Yeah. Before we start bragging it out everywhere, we better be sure of it first.
Before all the T-shirts and hats are made, we should probably know.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I don't know, Kevin, if you saw it on social media, but Mike got and how does that happen, Mike? So the equipment company came and made a bag for you?
Oh, I did see that. You got a custom bag, man. Gold.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a dope bag. Nah, like I said, AJ got it.
My man, AJ got it.
He got it. So he got the bag, and I came to the gym. And it was funny, he tried to make it a surprise when I walk in the gym, but one of the kids that I used to train took a picture of the bag and they sent it to me. And he's like, hey, you got your own bag. And I was like, oh, okay, looks nice. And then when I got there, it ruined his surprise. But that was, man.
You had to put on your pretend face, like, oh no, thank you.
Yeah. Well, next time when I come back, next time I see you in the gym, I'm gonna put my gloves on and I hit that bag. At least, like I said, I kick the shit out of Mike Marshall. It won't be the real Mike Marshall. But close I can get it.
The Mike Marshall bag, yeah. Probably weighs the same.
Nah, Mike's getting lean now, man. Who knows? So
yeah, I'm leaning out.
Yeah. All right,
Mike. Appreciate you, buddy.
I'll talk to you later, buddy. Appreciate being on.
All right,
man. Have a good day.
All right, buddy.